Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, ho. Let us go waltzing down to Knucklehead Row.
So I have got to read you this New York Times op-ed from Knucklehead Row, the op-ed page of the New York Times. It's amazing, and it's amazing what it tells us about the sexual state of the outcome of this sexual abnormality that they're pushing, this new vision of gender that they're pushing. You know, it's funny. In one way, I think that we're actually seeing what we're seeing is the leftist idea collapse. We don't know it yet because it's being propped up by CEO eunuchs like the guy at Disney. These guys who will not stand on. You know, this is something that the Ayn Rand crowd never really thought about. The all capitalism, all the time crowd never thought about. And as you know, I'm a vibrant capitalist. I love capitalism, but capitalism comes after values. Values come first. Religion comes first, actual worship of God comes first, then comes values, then comes capitalism, then comes freedom, because you have to have values to have freedom. And what people didn't realize, the all capitalism all the time right didn't realize, that corporations and the left have a lot of interests in common. I've frequently said that the old days when we were a manufacturing economy, that the realism required of manufacturing made corporations more freedom-oriented, made them more reason-oriented, made them more capitalistic. But now we're in an information economy, which is a totally different thing, because information can be either the truth, or it can be what people want to hear, or it can be what you want to tell them, right? All those different things can be information, and there are different ways of making money. And the rich and the leftists have a lot of interlocking interests. I've talked about the left wants mom out of the home so they can pervert and mutilate her children. That's why they want them out of the home, so they can take over. If the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world, they want to rock the cradle because they want to rule the world. The left wants mom out of the home so they can get her into the workforce and cut her husband's salary in half, because once you double the workforce, right? People keep saying, well, why haven't workers salaries gone up in decades? Well, they haven't gone up in decades because women flooded the market, and now dad is no longer the guy who brings home the bacon. So now we don't have to worry about that anymore. And you can basically not give people raises. I mean, feminism had a lot to do with that. The left wants to take away the power of the little guy and the power of the family, because that gets in the way of their grand plans. The family, the little guy, that's not what they want. They want the government to run everything. Business wants to get away from the power of the little guy and the power of the family, because that also gets in the way of their plans. Why should he get to choose? All of these guys like Amazon, he gets rich off the little guy saying, oh, great, I can have books delivered to my house. It's me, going, this is great. I press a button and I get any book I want. And it's delivered to my house. And then he forgets, right? Once he has all that money, I'm the little guy, I get in the way. So he wants to get rid of my opinion and just take it off his website. And the family gets in the way of the left, obviously, because of the sexual. They want to take power by selling us sexual immorality. The sexual immorality is just a way of getting us distracted from the values that get in their way, right? They don't really care about gay people. They don't care about black people. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just care about getting us at each other's throats and getting us distracted by our pleasures. But the family also, gets in the way of advertisers and capitalists who want to sell us sex and want to use sex to sell us stuff. All of these things, values get in the way of business, right? The left wants unfettered immigration because they want to dilute the population with people who are not dedicated to freedom, who don't have the background to be dedicated to freedom. Business wants unfettered immigration because they want the cheap workers. So there's a lot of ways in which business and the left are together. And again, so often, it is moms who stand in the way. It is moms who say, you know what, money's nice, fame is nice, but more important is my family. More important are my people. I want my people to have good values. I want my people to treat each other well. I want my people to live like I think that they should live. And my husband's role is to support the forming of soul work that I'm doing here. And that's why, he's doing what he's doing. Women are always in the way. Moms specifically are in the way of all of these people. And obviously it's moms who show up and say, don't sell my kid that garbage on TV. Take that off television. Even my mom did that. She would write to advertisers and say, hey, take this off TV. I don't want my kids watching this, and I don't want it in cartoons and all this stuff. And women also are a soft target. Young women especially are very credulous and to the point of gullibility. Why? Because that's the business model of human reproduction. If women were not credulous, they would never sleep with us. I mean, look at us. Would you sleep with us? Of course not. No, you have to be able to convince women to give birth, to have babies, to do all these things. And women, they're social creatures, and they can be bullied by a social movement. They can be told that, oh, you shouldn't think this, you shouldn't think that, and a lot of them will listen. So this is this wonderful article in the New York Times. This is what this article is about. Now, I have to add one more thing before I read this article, is I get letters from women all the time who say, you encouraged me to stay home with my kids, to have new respect for my role as a homemaker, to have new respect for my role as a wife, and I've never been happier. I've never gotten the opposite letter. I've never gotten a letter who said, you told me to stay home and now I'm miserable, And I don't tell anybody what to do. I'm not telling you to stay home. I'm telling you to follow your heart. I'm simply telling you to follow your heart and not what people tell you your heart should say. That's the only thing I'm actually telling you. However, I get these letters from women who are happier because they do these things. The New York Times, in the op-ed section, Knucklehead Row, is one woman after another talking about how miserable they are, but how important it is that they should remain miserable so they can maintain their left-wing point of view. It is amazing, the misery, the fumes of misery that come out of the New York Times op-ed page, especially from women. Michelle Goldberg is one of the most leftist knuckleheads on Knucklehead Row. She is a routine leftist. She never says anything. I mean, during the Trump administration, I thought they were going to have to scrape her off the wall. She was just absolutely hysterical. She has an op-ed about how maybe sex positivity isn't such a good thing for women. Sex positivity being basically no values, no morals, just sex is good. And she has read a book called Rethinking Sex, A Provocation by the Washington Post columnist Christine Emba. And she says, I found it bold and compelling, even when I disagreed with it. It's important that she disagrees with it because some places it's almost flirting with conservatism, and she cannot say that that's a good thing. But she says, Emba's argument is that sexual liberation, as currently conceived, has made people, and especially women, miserable. It's created, ironically, new strictures and secret shames, at least in certain elite milieus, around, quote, catching feelings. It's a terrible thing to have feelings when you're having sex, hating casual sex, and having vanilla sexual taste. These are all things that now leftist women are ashamed of. And here's the part that I just love. It says, one anecdote from the book illustrates the perversity, so to speak, because we don't use the word perversity, because that's a terrible thing, the perversity of the current moment. The author, Emba, describes meeting a woman at a Washington party who tells her about the man she's been dating. In most ways, he's great, but he chokes me during sex. He chokes me during sex, ? He chokes me during sex? The woman confides. She'd consented, but she didn't like it. She didn't like being strangled. Women, they're so judgmental. She was so unsure about whether her feelings were reasonable that she turned to Emba, a stranger, for advice. The taboo on questioning someone else's sexual preference was that strong, writes Emba. Now think about this. Leftist women are so trapped in the taboo of sexual tolerance that they can't even say they don't like being strangled. Yeah, I'm going out with this guy. His name is Jack the Ripper, and what he likes is disemboweling me. But is that wrong? Is that wrong? Should I really say that that's wrong? The woman can't say she dislikes being strangled. And Michelle Goldberg is kind of scratching her head and saying, well, there's got to be a way forward without we don't want to be conservative. That would be wrong. We don't want to be conservative, but maybe we shouldn't be strangled, right? And she says the problem. And Michelle Goldberg says she's kind of out of this because she married young. So she's happy, right? Because she got married young. The problem, she says, is that many women are still embarrassed by their own desires, particularly when they are emotional rather than physical. Emma writes that sex positivity champions the primacy of appetite. Our wants are above reproach and worthy of fulfillment no matter what. Her book is full of examples of people suppressing their longings. She interviews many women who seem to feel entitled to one-night stands, but not to kindness. Everything, what she's saying, she doesn't know she's saying, and she can't say it, everything they believe is wrong. Everything they believe is wrong. And it starts with women. I remember when they were arguing in the Supreme Court about abortion, there were leftists on Twitter saying, oh, well, if we can't have abortions, then men should have to stay around and take care of their children. And I was thinking, yeah, come on, you're almost there. So this is amazing. They cannot even say they don't want to be strangled. Please don't strangle me while having sex. And if they start to say, well, it's wrong, it's just wrong. It's wrong to hurt me while we're having sex. It's wrong not to use my body and not to care about me. It's wrong to impregnate me and not stay around to take care of that child and just give me some money to go get an abortion. That's wrong. Once they start saying that, the whole thing falls apart. It's like a string on a cheap suit. You pull it and the whole suit unravels. And I don't have to tell you this, and I don't want to preach, but so much of this goes back to God. The funny thing about this is that nothing we truly believe makes sense without him. We don't want to believe, people don't want to believe, they think science has disproved God. None of that's true, but it doesn't matter. They think it's just not modern, it's just not cool, it's just not hip. But all the things we believe, all men are created equal. All men are not created equal. Men are different. Some men are far superior to other men, but they're all equal in the sight of God. The only way that makes sense is if there's a God. We say we have rights. We don't have any rights. If those rights don't come from God, they don't come from anywhere. They are indefensible. We cannot defend our right unless we say we were endowed by our Creator with those rights. And you know what? What women do is a spiritual task. What moms do is a spiritual task. And if the whole world is material, then what men do is all important. Men are the masters of material. They build stuff, they make stuff, they can't even talk to each other without stuff. Men don't even discuss, things unless they're discussing stuff. But what women do is a spiritual task. And if there's no God, if there's no spirituality, yes, that task doesn't matter. They can't even say, don't strangle me. I was talking before about violence and sex being a reliving of trauma. That's what people do with trauma. They relive it over and over again. They get trapped in a trauma loop. We all do this. All of us have had childhood traumas, and we keep going back. If our parents abused us, we look for people to abuse us in our life. We've all done this. You have to break that chain. But the first trauma of human life is the fall of man. The first trauma is getting kicked out of Eden because we tried to seize for ourselves the power to determine what is right and what is wrong. We tried to take that right away from God. We are reenacting that trauma again in the form of this leftist revolution. And I know America is not Eden, but I don't want to get kicked out of here either. If you love our content, and you must, subscribe and like, and also subscribe to the Andrew Klavan Podcast.